feel like I'm fulfilling all my childhood Spice Girls dreams by having one of these mics. So thank you, everyone, for being part of that. Before I forget, because when I finish, I'll probably just run off the stage and hide. Before I forget, I want to note that we have a Megaphone vendor here tonight. You'll hear in a second a little bit about what that is. But Eric will be out in the lobby. We have a table out there, and he's selling Megaphone magazine and Hope and Shadows calendars. I really hope you go and talk with Eric and buy a magazine and a calendar from him. Okay, I don't have my glasses on, but, oh, we're starting. Great. Kelvin B., who is Kwakwaka'wakw from northern Vancouver Island, is the elder in residence at the Aboriginal Front Door Society in the downtown east side. He's kind and thoughtful with a mischievous sense of humor, and for many years he's been a friend to Megaphone. The first time I heard him speak, to welcome us all to a ceremony, he said, "Okay, everybody, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth so you can listen. It's a good lesson, it served me well, and it's my hope for healthcare." Megaphone creates meaningful work for people experiencing poverty and homelessness. We publish the monthly Megaphone magazine and annual Hope and Shadows calendar that are sold on the streets of Vancouver and Victoria by people who are low income. Megaphone vendors buy each magazine upfront for 75 cents and sell it to customers for $2. They keep the profit. Through simple interactions, Megaphone builds bridges between communities. A better future becomes possible when we understand that my well-being is bound up with yours. The connections built through Megaphone help us see that reality, and they do it by shifting the stories and voices that we understand are worth listening to. I'm going to tell you about a Megaphone project created in response to the overdose crisis. I'm going to tell you how we are all better off when we work together to solve big societal problems, and how to do that, we need to listen to people with direct, lived experience of those problems. How to Save a Life was an event series that saw 8 downtown east side community members with experience of the overdose crisis share their stories. We held 6 events in neighborhoods all over Vancouver, where we provided overdose response training, and people shared their stories. Attendees could also take home a naloxone kit. In just a few weeks, 450 people heard directly from drug users and learned how to respond to an overdose. The project came about from looking at the overdose deaths to overdose calls ratio in areas outside of the downtown east side, often stigmatized as Vancouver's poorest postal code. We looked at these numbers and saw that though the number of overdose calls was highest in the downtown east side, the proportion of deaths to calls was low. The lowest in the city, in fact, by far. Those numbers told us there's wisdom here. How to Save a Life sought to amplify that wisdom by amplifying the voices of people experiencing the heart of the crisis. 981 people died of illicit drug overdose in 2016, and 1,422 people in 2017. In just 2 years in our province, roughly 6 to 7 times the number of people here in this room tonight died from illicit drug overdose. They died needlessly, and we can do better. The person I'm going to talk to you about next is someone named Spike. Spike is tenacious and generous, that's him, and he's been through a lot. After a serious accident, he became dependent on opioids. He is a Megaphone vendor, and he was one of our 8 storytellers at How to Save a Life. He spoke at our first event. That first night, I was nervous as people filed into the room. I slipped in the back door and tucked into a chair. The storytellers had been gathering once a week in a cramped room in the downtown east side to work on their stories, and this was our first go out in public. Spike shared his story that night, and one powerful moment from it stayed with me. He asked everyone to join him in a moment of silence, and he invited anyone who wished to say aloud the name of someone they had lost to overdose. The audience went quiet, that skin-prickling, breath-holding kind of quiet. It was the kind of moment of collective focus that sucks all the air out of a room. Then quietly, people began to speak the names of their loved ones. Slow, then quick, the names spilled out and piled up. They sounded so thin, but they felt so heavy. Mel, Derek, Marnie, Emily, Tom, Tracy, and more, too many more to name. Spike hung his head and listened, the tears on his face obscured by his long hair. "Wow, that's a lot of people," he said. "Thank you." He put down the microphone and sat down. What a revolutionary moment Spike led, to hear those names spoken, to feel the weight of all that loss and grief, but also to feel the love, togetherness, and the fierce determination in that room made the hair on my neck stand on end. I can tell you that alongside that grief, there is hope. Storytellers shared what is working. They spoke of crosstown clinic, of peer-run services, of spaces where drug users shape solutions, of acceptance and community. There's power in that hope. And there is power in choosing to listen and in using our voices to amplify those too long silenced. African-American writer and social critic James Baldwin asserted that we made the world we're living in, and we have to make it over. That's the task at hand. In the overdose crisis, the research is there. The solutions are there. The drug users are there on the front lines, full of courage and determinations and hearts broken but still beating. What's needed now is you and me and all of us together to lend our voices, to bridge the gap between the solutions that exist and the political will to make them happen. My hope for healthcare is sensible drug policy. My hope for healthcare is evidence-based addictions treatment. My hope for healthcare is affordable housing for all. My hope for healthcare is community and acceptance. My hope for healthcare is that we all do what Kelvin says. Take the cotton from our ears, put it in our mouths, and listen. And then we spit the cotton out to raise our voices in a chorus to say, enough. No more overdose deaths. Thank you.